in disarray.
I'm not sure I want to say that.
I had to rush into my office. Okay, is everybody back? I see some. I see Councillor Crothers. I don't see Councillor Baswick. He needs a puppet, and then he can stick it in. Okay, item 7.3. I'll call the meeting back to order at 7:55. Tax notice payment period, item 7.3. Please have a motion on this. Councillor Engel.
I move the council extend the tax notice payment period to 90 days from the time the tax notices are issued.
All right. Any comment, Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'm wondering if I could get an explanation as to what the point of this is. There are no penalties until September anyway, so as long as the taxpayer pays their tax by August 31st, no matter when it's due, whether it's due on August 30th or not, if they pay their tax on August 31st, they don't pay a penalty. So I'm not sure what the point of this is.
Ethan, go ahead.
So yeah, I can speak to that administratively. So the standard tax deadline is at the end of June, and this is more just now. Technically, it would be captured in the bylaw with the dates there. This was more just to be able to capture so that we have a direction from council, principled direction from council, that they're okay with that later tax payment deadline for this year again. That was done last year due to COVID to allow additional time to pay taxes.
Okay.
And
Councillor Windsor?
And I get the principle. Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I get the principal idea of it. I just don't understand what the mechanism is. I mean, if a person, whether their due date is the 30th of April or 30th of June, they're not going to be penalized anything until September 1st. And so I'm wondering, there's no operational difference here. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct, because if it was the standard June 30th deadline, then the tax penalty regime would start after June 30th. So this is to kind of set in principle when you want your tax deadline set, and then we would incorporate that into the tax bylaw, the tax rate bylaw, and the penalty regime.
And is this a different question, Councillor Windsor?
It's just clarification, because on page 23 of our agenda, it says there are no penalties until September 1st. And so the penalties don't start right after June.
But Ethan, that would be pending this approval of this item.
Pending, that's a draft clause there. That's put in their draft due to this, anticipating this and waiting to see how council directs on this.
So does that clarify? Because there's two items that could be amended in that bylaw based on the vote here. And then the next one is on the credit cards. So any other discussion? I'll call the vote. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we have item 7.4, the credit card administration fee. A motion?
Your worship, I'll move that to waive the administration fee for those paying taxes by credit card for the 2021 tax year ending December 31st, 2021.
All right, any discussion? There was a document sent out earlier. Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I guess my question has to be what council's purpose of this. What's council's goal in doing this? Because I just need clarification as to what the goal is, because I think it's missed. I think it is misdirected. And so I'd just like an indication from council as to what they're attempting to do by approving this.
I think that would be in their vote, that they would just have the vote. I don't think we have to answer that question other than on our vote. But I would like to ask Councillor Pogler.
Yes, just on from my experience, Councillor Windsor, people sometimes do not have the ready cash to make that lump sum payment. I realize they can go to the TIP program, they can do other things, but they don't. And this would give them incentive to make that payment on time, and they would do the whole thing. And I think it would be to our benefit as a town to have that additional cash in our coffers rather than try and go after it afterwards. And that's been my experience in past history. Thank you.
Ethan, could Amanda answer this? And I know we asked it in the actual workshop in the morning that we had the budget, but at this point, what would be the anticipated impact? I know last year it was $10,000, but what would we be expecting then to have an impact? Because really our taxpayers are paying this $10,000, and it might be an incentive for someone, but at the same time, the other side of it is that our taxpayers pick up a $10,000 tab that is a bill that comes to the town. So Amanda or Ethan, what would we anticipate in if we're fine with this 10,000? Because we did that in a pandemic year, and that was everybody was offering waiving fees and deferral of payments and whatnot. And it was an instant reaction to the pandemic. And yes, we're still in the pandemic, but what could we anticipate for if everybody starts paying by credit card and the cost? And I'm not trying to be an extreme scenario. I'm trying to be a reasonable scenario.
Maybe to illustrate, Amanda, maybe just share what the difference was in both the revenues we collected via credit card and the fees that we paid both in 2019 versus 2020.
And I know Amanda sent that out, and I thank you for that. I just don't have it in front of me because I didn't get it printed off.
Well, what I sent out today doesn't answer that question, and okay. I don't have that information in front of me. I'd have to bring it back. And we don't know, we can't estimate who will take advantage of it or not. So it's a guess. it will impact the budget, but it's a guess. The way the budget is proposed right now, it assumes that council would be in favor of this motion. But again, if there's a whole big uptake in it, we would have a higher cost than we expected. But right now we're not budgeting for the credit card administration fee revenue because, and this is what we brought to council as proposed in the budget, is that this credit card fee would be waived again for 2021.
And we'd be taking on an additional 10,000 into the operational budget. That isn't there right now.
It's there already.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So
That's the way we budgeted, as if the fee would be waived. So we accounted for it based on what we know from last year, but I can't say for sure what we think is reasonable because it just depends who decides to go on this program this way. If one really large taxpayer goes on, it could be significantly higher than we saw last year, or vice versa. If people, racked up their credit cards and don't have room, they're not going to take advantage of it either way. So until we get kind of like 5 years of data, it's hard to estimate these type of things.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I spoke against this a little bit earlier, and I'm going to speak again, because I think from the statistics that Amanda sent out earlier today, it was 52% that are on the TIP program. And those people on the TIP program cannot take advantage of this at all. And then there was another additional 12% who have their taxes paid for them by their financial institution, probably through a PIT mortgage monthly payments. And those people too would not be able to take advantage of this in any way. And I think, and maybe this is a wrong supposition, maybe it's the wrong concept, but it seems to me that those are the very people that we're attempting to help here by giving them this relief. The people that are in some difficulty and financial distress because of COVID. And it's not those people that are going to be able to take advantage of this opportunity. And in addition to that, whatever the cost is, whether it's 10,000 or whether it's more than that, the taxpayers, that's a burden on the taxpayers. That increases the amount of taxes that the taxpayers that are paying their fees through TIP or through PIT, they're paying a higher tax in order to finance that. So I'm still opposed to this. I don't agree with this move.
Councillor Engel. Thank you, Councillor Windsor.
I understand what Bill is saying, and I think one of the important things is how many people do pay with credit card. By not waiving it, we're not penalizing anyone. First of all, I guess I would like to say that I'm impressed because we're looking for ways to help in our community. This one is tough for me. I have some ideas where that $10,000 saving, if we don't give that, could go to, obviously helping out with some different ideas, maybe towards businesses and people that are employing people in the town. It's tough because we are trying to help everyone, really. But I do understand what you're saying, Councillor Windsor. I do.
Okay, any other comments? And I can't support it simply because $10,000 for taxpayers to pay for a minority to benefit from. I understand we want the taxes, but people are going to pay in taxes. That's legislated that they pay taxes. So our economy is supposed to be bouncing back. There's it's been good news in Alberta lately. So I know it's not there or it's not even close, but that's why I won't support it, is because I just can't see that 10,000 benefiting a minority, and we benefited a lot with all the waiving of fees earlier in January 1st to March 31st. So that's why I can't. So I will call the vote though unless there's any other comments on that. So the motion to waive the administration fee for those paying taxes by credit card. All in favor? Opposed? So that's carried. We have item 7.5, removal of MR. I need to vote based on our public hearing earlier. Councillor Engel.
I move the council approve the disposal of Lot 7 MR in Shawns Park and that administration proceed in the preparation for the transfer of land to Lot 8 at 800 Shawns Drive.
Okay, are there any comments or questions on that? I think you all had lots of opportunity, and thanks again to Chris for his excellent presentation. So I will call the vote on that. All in favor? That's carried. Thanks. We have item 7.6, the multipurpose room and lobby roof. With our motion. Councillor Engel again.
I move the council award the multipurpose room and lobby roof project to Cooper Roofing and Exteriors at a value of $127,700 plus GST, and direct administration to proceed with contracting and scheduling.
All right, are there any questions? See Nicole's here. I think we have to again commend, and I think we knew this when we passed the $160,000 budget, that it would come in under budget. And thanks for the expeditious tendering of this, and going to be good. I have a question, I guess, is, you say June, July, and it's going to be a busy area over there. The skate park. And
real busy over here.
Can they all fit their vehicles and their construction stuff? And
yeah, they're in different areas of the grounds.
Okay. Well, thanks for looking after the complex so well.
Thank you.
I will call the vote. All in favor? Carried. All right, we have a Good Samaritan recognition. And if I could just read first that I would like to add to our Good Samaritan recognition, and maybe more volunteerism recognition. I think we all read it in the paper, so I'd like 2 motions on this item. And I'm going to add Shirley Thompson to our commendation, recognition, applause, admiration. Shirley spent decades volunteering through music, performing solo and with other musicians in seniors' homes, lodges, and many other venues. Recognized by AHS recently for 40 plus years of volunteerism, Royal Purple, Disbury Auxiliary, the Women's Institute. She's an amazing talent and lady, does piano and accordion. She plays to seniors and lodges, and they clap and dance. And I mean, who doesn't love music? She even takes it on the bus, and everyone's missing Shirley in the lodges and on the bus, and they're missing buses too. Shirley was my neighbor, so she played with my dad often when I was growing up. So I got first front row seats in those cases. She's played across the country, and I'd like to add to this this motion for Doug House and 10 Shu Ji. I'd like to add a second motion for Shirley Thompson, recognizing her for her commend her for exceptional volunteerism towards music in our community. So I would like, can I have the first motion, and we can applaud and admire Doug and Tan. Councillor Bazook, you'd like to make that?
Yes, I'm pleased to move to accept. I'm sorry, I just lost my paper. I'm really pleased to that council recognize Doug Howes and Tan Shu Lee for their continued efforts in volunteerism and keeping Memorial Park clean. It's nice to finally find out who our secret volunteers were. It's a pleasure to know them. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any comments on Doug and Tan? I know Memorial Park is exceptional, and I do commend them and thank them. And I know there's a few others that will be coming forward in those names. So that's a pretty exceptional to help clean up behind other people's animals. I will call the vote. All in favor? Carried. And if I could have a second motion to recognize Shirley Thompson for her spreading the joy of music to our seniors and community for 40 plus years. Councillor Engel.
I would move the council recognize Shirley Thompson for spreading music and joy, I guess happiness for the last 40 years.
To our seniors and community.
Yes, to our seniors and community. I did recognize all of them, to all of us.
Thank you. Any other comments on that? I'll call the vote then. All in favor? With great thanks to all our citizens. We have item 7.8, Alberta's Disaster Recovery Program update. Councillor Windsor.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I would like to move that Council direct administration to return a report on the impact of the new disaster recovery program on existing residences and future development within the boundaries of the town of Disbury.
Okay. It definitely will have an impact, I'm thinking. So you have another comment to that?
I thought I should elaborate just a little bit that I spent a seminar on the new disaster recovery program and explanation as to what it meant and what it was all about. And the main purpose of this legislation is to attempt to convince and force municipalities to move away from development in high risk areas, and that's both commercial and residential. The highest impact is going to be on residential properties where it's a one and done kind of a proposition, that if there is a disaster in the area and a resident makes a claim on their property, then regardless of the magnitude of that property to a maximum of $5,000, they are sterilized from ever having, that property is sterilized from ever having a claim again. And my concern with this is that our residents need to be aware of this, and we need to be looking at our MDP to ensure that we're not putting our residences, future residences, in harm's way, because it's going to affect values, it's going to affect insurance, it's going to affect all kinds of different things. And so I just think it would be really valuable to have administration bring back a report that really examines exactly what those ramifications are and the impact on the developments in development areas in the town of Disbury.
Yeah, that was a great session Alberta Council put on as well. So I don't know who else sat in on it, but great information that was there. Are there any other comments, questions? I will call the vote then on Councillor Windsor's motion to bring back information on the impacts on our municipality. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We have item 7.9, the outdoor patio food and dining opportunities. And I just want to give a little history on this first, if I may. And I thank Brooke Murky at Vintage Coffee Bar for forwarding her letter. And it's the one time I like being on social media, because Brooke turned this into such a positive approach that she was going to get on it, and she was going to get patios, and she was going to work hard. And people were offering to help put her to the rooftop, and they were offering to help her with her tables down the street. And it was such a positive approach that you don't get it all the time. on social media. And then in speaking to Jay Teskey, same thing. She just wants to get working and offering her services. So got some phone calls. Administration got some phone calls. I've been reading about Olds, Cold Lake doing it. Other communities I know are doing it to help their businesses get their patios going. And they had their announcement today too about the grant, the 350 million more grant to help our businesses that are being affected. So the motion, I think, speaks for itself, but would anybody like to make that motion? And then if there's further discussion.
Can I speak? Can you see me? Can I speak? Rhonda?
I'll certainly, I'd ask council if they would like, I have to have council permission to have someone speak from the public. So
for sure.
If council indulge Brooke to speak to this item. All in favor of letting that happen? All right, go ahead, Brooke.
Can you see me?
I'm sure I can if I move my screen to the next screen. But
okay. Can you see me? Can I speak?
Please go ahead and speak.
Okay. I would just like to say I know this is hard times, and I really, really would love the opportunity to expand our patios. It's a big deal for us. My revenue is down by half. I have gone out and I know I've talked to other business owners as well, trying to do patios. It's a big deal. Like we've hunted down stuff and tried to, make this work, which is not a town issue. It's obviously a government issue, but I hope you are willing to work with us and just help us out. It's a scary time for us, and we need all the support we can get.
Thanks, Brooke. Appreciate that. Motion on this? Councillor Pogler?
There we go. I had to find my mouse. That council move to approve reducing red tape and delays in working with our local food, beverage, and dining establishments to accommodate the immediate need for expanded and or new outdoor dining and patio dining opportunities. And Madam Mayor, if I may, I would like to propose that we add to that we do a reprieve of the utility charges for the next 3 months on all restaurant and eating establishments, April, May, and June, because according to the Premier, that is going to be the timeline where things could open up again. And what I mean by utilities is water, sewer, and garbage. And I would just like to throw that out there because I really think we need to do this. And I want to be part of a group that shows that we care about our businesses and that we want our restaurant industry to at least stay alive in this community until things turn around. So that's
Mayor,
my gig.
Thank you, Earhart. And Mayor Rhonda, can I say something else?
Okay, and then I'll have to.
Can I ask
one more thing?
Sorry, can I ask something else too? I realize that this is probably like a temporary solution, but can you guys or can town council take in consideration that we've spent, me alone, and I'm a coffee shop, have spent $2,000 on heaters and tables, and can we, I understand that this should be like through the duration of the lockdown, but can we take into consideration through the summer, just if this works and if this works well, can we talk about that and take that into consideration, being the amount of money that we're dumping into a short-term solution. Can we? It doesn't have to be decided today, but can we talk about that? Maybe a patio like Bridgeland and Inglewood, and like can we take that if we're expanding? Can we talk about that just for the duration of this summer, just because we're all hurting and
All right,
trying
thanks for that. Thanks for that suggestion too, Brooke. We appreciate that. And I know, so I will ask Amanda to clear the mics now. And I appreciate your input, Brooke, and thanks for speaking to council and for council agreeing to that. So we have a motion that is as read, as wrote, and then Councillor Pogmiller amended that. Councillor Windsor?
I wonder if Councillor Pogmiller wouldn't be willing to enter those as two separate motions. And the reason that I would ask that is because I am in favor wholeheartedly in reducing the red tape. However, I'm not sure that I'm in favor, I'm pretty sure I'm not in favor of increasing everybody's taxes to pay for the water and sewer services, utility services for a certain segment of the community, and hitting the taxpayers, those people who are probably already under financial distress, to have to finance additional coverage. And this certainly, if that part of the motion moves forward, it's certainly not going to result in a reduction in tax. That's going to require an increase in tax.
I'd like to suggest there's about 260 businesses that we would have no idea of the impact of that motion. So I would reiterate Councillor Windsor's request to make two motions. Councillor Pogmiller?
I don't know if I was understood or not, but I would be happy to do it in two motions. However, my motion as far as the utilities goes is just for the restaurant industry within our community. And I think if admin does a costing on that for water, sewer, and garbage rates for 3 months, I don't think it's going to be that huge. And we have put money into recreation and so on in this community from the most grant. I don't see why we can't find some grant money to cover that for this industry for 3 months, because they are definitely hurting. And I'm just afraid that at the end of the day, we're going to wake up and we're probably going to end up with about half or less restaurants in this community than what we have now. That's my thing on it. But yes, Councillor Windsor, I'd be happy to do two motions.
Okay. So the first motion is as wrote on our documents. Councillor Moore?
I just have a couple of questions because it doesn't say, refer to the things I'm wondering about. When it talks about expanding patio dining opportunities, would we be talking at all about perhaps parking spaces on the street like we've done sometimes, like in front of the Elks Hall for things? Or is it just to, people that already have a patio to expand it? I would actually be in favor of even cordoning off somehow that would be safe, like either with cement at the bottom or fairly big, higher fence that you could see it. Some parking spaces in front of any and all of our restaurants for the time that we're in COVID, as long as they would park their staff somewhere else farther away so that they don't just park in front of somebody else's businesses, which is what usually happens here. As long as there's a 6-foot pathway sidewalk. So I would love to see it open to all eating establishments.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Crothers?
I just want everybody to think about where Brooks Restaurant's located. On 19th is probably the worst street we have in town for parking. It's absolutely chock-a-block as it is now. And on the south side of 19th, is the worst area where Brook is located. And you have JD's and a number of other businesses there. It's just horrendous, the parking in there. So we just have to pay some attention. Somebody's going to lose some business, and we may be creating more problems. I think what she's asking is something, if we can do it, we should do it. But we need to pay attention as to the impact of it. That's all.
Well
Just can I
said.
ask another question? I don't know if the fire hall parking lot is being used very much by staff, especially 19th Avenue. I would love, I don't know if there's a lot, like parking here sign kind of anywhere around there, and there could be. Just wondering if we could maybe direct people to park there that are going to be there all day. And so that we have a 2-hour parking, but I know it hasn't been enforced for many years. Anyway, just wondering about those things. They don't have to be settled tonight. It's just things that I think about when I think about people maybe taking up spaces on the street.
Thanks, Councillor Moore. Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I believe it was at the meeting last night when the town of Olds went through the same exact process, and they posted on their Facebook page the criteria by which they are moving forward with this very quickly, and are pretty much relying on their planning department to ensure that it is permitted properly, that it is expedient, and that it is done in such a safe and safe manner for both the patrons and for the employees. So I think that this could be done really easily through our planning department, and even just robbing from Olds as much as anything to formulate what could be done.
Thank you for that. I just wonder about I'll just add this, Heath, and then you can speak, but a friendly amendment to accommodate and expedite the immediate need for expanded and or new outdoor dining and patio dining opportunities to include possibilities of parking spaces. Is that a fair, friendly amendment? Because it's going to be up to our planning department to work the best solutions out and get that happening, make it happen where possible. So Ethan had a response, and then Councillor Polk-Miller.
So yeah, and this is something Christopher Pickett and I, the development officer, we've been exploring since the announcement came out from the province because we knew this was of interest to council. So in preparation, we've been looking at what's the easiest, simplest way to accommodate this. We've also consulted with legal counsel on this because there are, of course, legal ramifications as well. Most of this would involve allowing excursion into, because most don't have patios, and so it'd be making allowance for them to go into our sidewalks, which again we can do by utilizing our temporary permit process, where we issue temporary permits for expansion into that area. One of the things that we would require as part of that temporary allowance is that they enter into an agreement that we did get from legal counsel, that they assume liability for that area that they're using. So for instance, if they set up some tables and seats in the parking area, then they're liable for that area of our parking, or of not the parking area, of the sidewalk area, then they're liable for that area that they're occupying. And so there are a few things that we did get some guidance on, but we are able to move forward immediately with this and facilitate anyone who would like to do this and go forward, and as well as making it as easy for people to do. And again, on a temporary basis until we're out of phase 1 again and back to indoor dining. So that's what we're prepared to do. I mean, it is going to be something that's why I welcome this motion, because by passing the motion, that indicates to me council's support of this, because it is going to be something that is going to be a little bit messy and clunky, and you're going to have, there's going to be it's going to be a bit of a thing that we'll figure out as we do it, because it is going to be a little bit Well, we'll
Okay.
see.
Thanks, Ethan. Councillor Pogmiller, I think, was going to accept a friendly amendment, perhaps, to your motion.
Yes, I was good with that. I guess the only other thing I would have to say about that particular thing is let's not delay the process, and let's move as quickly as we can on this and get the obstacles out of the way. I would appreciate Ethan carrying through with what he just got done talking about on that issue. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Engel.
Sorry about that. Zoom decided that I shouldn't be in the meeting for some reason and escorted me out. So I've, if you guys can just kind of catch me up here, I got removed about the time Bill asked for a split in two motions. And can you guys just kind of bring me up to speed where we're at really quick?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ethan just explained that they've been working on it already and have everything in place to work quickly with this. And I asked that the motion be amended to accommodate and expedite the immediate need. And then at the end of the sentence, and to include parking space opportunities. And then Councillor Pogmiller accepted that. And we're at the situation right now where our administration has been working on it diligently, and council sounds like they're very supporting this as in getting it moving along as expeditiously and efficiently as possible. And I would just like to, I know the motion's on the table, but I think if it's successful, we should look at it at the end of phase one and see if it's the value of the extension into the summer. Disbury, the home of outdoor patio dining, and what heck, that'd be awesome. So maybe, you know, we bring it back to revisit the success and how we could possibly move forward into the summer with it. Or maybe we're going to be in phase one all summer. I don't know. So does that clarify for everybody? We have the motion on the table. Any other questions or comments? I'll call the vote then. All in favor? That's carried. And then Councillor Pogmiller had a second motion.
Do you want me to repeat what I asked?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. I move that we extend the what do I call it? A forgiveness of fees for the water, sewer, and garbage for the restaurant industry within our community.
Okay, any discussion on that? Councillor Engel and then Councillor Windsor.
So that's tough for me to vote for without having some cost estimates as to what that may look like. I'm almost voting blindly, and I don't know what the price tag of that is. And I do support Earhart's motion to look for some relief there. I need personally to see what that may look like financially.
Okay, Councillor Windsor.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I guess I would suggest that maybe commercial solid waste isn't within the purview of council and the town. I think that commercial garbage is the commercial operator's responsibility, not picked up by the town curbside gutter pickup service. Is that correct, Ethan? Mayor Hunter, if I could ask Ethan through you, if that is correct?
Yeah, Ethan.
Yes, that is correct. Commercial garbage is a private service.
So that would not be appropriate to have that in that motion.
That's correct.
Okay, that's fine. We can take that out. I wasn't aware that that's how it was done, that they contracted that privately. I'm fine with that.
I would.
And if you want, I could amend my motion to state that administration bring back a cost for the water and sewer to our next meeting, and then we vote on a motion to do that at that time, because that is within the 3 months yet anyways.
I like the amendment. I wonder if that burns them too. Like, they're busy, and I don't say that they could do it in 2 weeks. Would it be okay to have it by the first weekend? Or maybe Ethan can answer that. Could that be done in 2 weeks with the load on our administrative team's table right now?
That's a good question. I'd have to, by way of, how much calculating that would be. I'm not entirely sure. Is that a?
Could that?
And let me just, let's just ask Amanda real quick if how much of a calculation that'll take to calculate estimates of those utility costs for the businesses.
Well, first we'd have to make a list of what businesses are impacted. So we would need help from our planning and development to identify those. And then we'd have to probably take an estimate based on the last couple of months or looking at last year, because we're not really sure what their consumption is. And then lastly, kind of the unknown in that calculation is what the fees will be, because we haven't even set our fees for this year. And if there is a change there, that would have an impact on this as well.
If I could add something, Madam Mayor, there's more than paper garbage in commercial. You've also got, they come weekly or bi-weekly to pick up grease, food waste. That's handled separately, so it's not a simple calculation.
Okay, so I guess would a motion be best as soon as possible? Or are we, I know how busy administration is, and I'm not taking away that these answers are important for council to make good decisions too. But I know they're going to have to work with the budget and the performance evaluation committee before the next meeting as well. So Amanda, is that? Councillor Pomerle, I'm going to ask you, would you like it as soon as possible, or do you want it in the next 2 weeks? And I guess if they can't do it, because we've always said that we're not putting timelines on things, and that's worked well for us.
I guess my mission is that I just don't want it delayed endlessly and get forgotten. I'm prepared to go with as soon as possible, but then I don't want to have this come back to us in July. Like if there's a month, I think it could be done within the month, because I don't think there's that many restaurants that we have to consider. There's not that many businesses doing that kind of work. So my whole thing is, let's get at this. Let's do this. Let's get some help for these people, and let's show them that we really care about them and about their businesses. And I just want to make sure that this stays on the table and gets accomplished. So I'd be prepared to amend the motion as soon as possible.
And I'd like to, I appreciate that amendment. And I just do want to point out, and we have a whole community of businesses that are impacted, and I know restaurants are impacted. There's also that $350 million new dollars that was announced today. And I think that's all relative to a lot of how our provincial government supporting. So mindful of all that, getting the information back, I think is important on this motion. So thank you for the motion, and thanks for all the comments. And it's amended to bring back the information on what it would be to waive all the utilities for restaurants. And is it just restaurants you're talking? I'm sorry.
Yes, I was just talking to restaurants.
Okay. So I will call the vote unless there's any other questions. All in favor to bring back that information as soon as possible. Carried. All right, thank you. We have item 7.10, the Community Grant Program Policy Principles, and I will let Councillor Windsor speak to this as the chairperson of that committee.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. The committee looked at this as a possibility as an alternative to what we are currently doing, and in response to the town hall meetings that we held, and the message that we got through those town hall meetings, in that the community groups are in some troubles and need some help, and so. One of the options that we had and we looked at, or was before us, was that we could have reduced user fees, but that didn't cover all groups. That was very specific only to user groups that used facilities of the towns that are under some kind of an agreement. And so what we looked at was, we looked around to see what was available, and one of the things that we came up with was, that is included in your package, is a community grant program that is offered through the town of Sundre. There's a similar grant program, although a little different, through the Mountain View County. And the whole idea of this was to give our groups an opportunity to apply, similar to FCSS, but completely different than FCSS, because it doesn't apply to the same criteria as FCS, to allow them to apply for some funds to help them operationally. Now, what our goal was, and what we're looking at here is just principle, because if this is approved, then it'll go on to the Policy and Governance Committee. But what our goal here is to help kickstart, and we talked about targeting youth groups to get them started, get them kicked back from what they suffered through the pandemic. And so the whole program, we would suggest that there be 2 intakes, so that they could apply twice through the year, that each group could apply, that there would be maybe a focus on our youth groups to get them going as quickly as we possibly can. And one of the aspects, or one of the possibilities we looked at, was to have this funded through surpluses from the previous year, and essentially to look at 10% of the surplus from the previous year. Now, if we look at that for 2021 and we move forward with this program and try to get this in place, then that would amount to about $14,800, which the committee discussed. Maybe we should be bumping that up for this 1 year and focusing on our youth groups and helping them with a kickstart to get back in the swing of things. And so we talked about bumping that just for this 1 year out of the surplus from last year to $30,000. Now, using the surplus, and this is just a proposal, it's not anything written in stone or anything, it's just a recommendation from the committee, and that is that it come out of the previous year's surplus, so operational budgetary surplus, so that it's not impacting the operation budget in any way. It's not impacting exactly and directly the taxpayers. It is a surplus that we would use to help fund our community groups and help build community and culture in Disbury.
Thank you, Councillor Windsor. Councillor Moore?
Sorry, do you want to have the motions before we speak to the? I don't think that Bill did any motions, did he?
Yeah, go ahead and do the first motion then, Councillor Windsor, because we'll have to discuss that one.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Hunter. Then I'll move that Council approve the principles to be included in a community grant program policy and refer it to the Policy and Governance Committee.
Okay.
All right, any discussion?
Yes, I would like to speak to that if I could. I don't have a problem with the second recommendation if Council wants to approve more money, but I have several problems with the first recommendation, because right now we have $9,000 allocated in our budget for assistance to those who provide community services of all kinds to our residents. Of that, I understand $4,000 was for grants up to $500 to eligible groups who applied, which this would be an expansion of. And $5,000 was for discounts on our facilities to community service organizations who use them for something that benefits our residents. The way that these principles are written in the first recommendation eliminates the facility cost discount aspect of our current allocations. It provides only for grants to community groups and organizations. The groups that typically access the facility cost discount are Didsbury Farm and Ranch Bonspiel, Didsbury Ducks Unlimited, Youth Empowerment and Support Group, Didsbury Aquajets, Mountain View Arts Society, Didsbury Elks, Olds Preschool Society, Didsbury Lions, Redeemer Lutheran Church, Mountain View Colts, Didsbury Skating Club, Zion Church, Essentials for the Community, and Didsbury High School. It sounds to me that these are legitimate and worthwhile beneficiaries of a facility discount, and I would like to see that aspect of our budget continue. Why would we eliminate this? I do really like the screening process of the sundry policy that's included, which ensures that grant funds benefit the community as a whole and a wide demographic or volunteer base need the funds and don't support staff salaries or wages. Once a budget allocation and process is approved, I believe actual grant applications should go to the Community Services Department, or if a council committee, the Performance Evaluation Committee, because it addresses community services and service levels. Recommendations for grant allocations would still come back to the council for approval. According to the suggested policy principles, the community grants would be an ongoing allocation of a percentage amount which would not be adhered to in this first year, but which policy future councils would already have in place because we said so. I have a problem with that. Do as we say, not as we do. So I would ask the council either amend or defeat the first recommendation, and I would support the second one.
And I'd like to speak as the third committee member on that committee. And all of Councillor Moore's points, all the existing grant criteria could be absorbed into the community grant program, so that wouldn't go away. And we get to make our own policy, and we can cover all those initiatives. All policies tie future councils to that policy, so this one's no different. And if councils choose to change policies, that's their prerogative. But for us to move this forward based on great opportunity for our community, the $4,000 that we offered in the past, only 8 groups can really take advantage of that. And this way, many more groups could take advantage of this community grant program. I 100% support it. It's something we heard at the town hall too, that the extra money to help our youth groups recover. Our council can tweak those things, but we can also have a guaranteed amount that our community groups will benefit from, all levels of community group, service organization, youth, senior, adult. And I think it's a great implementation of a great policy that this council could start moving forward. So I just reiterate, all existing parameters of policies can be absorbed into this grant and encompass everything, and no one would lose out. Actually, more people would benefit from this grant program.
I do believe the second recommendation does cover that and does allow the larger amount.
But I'm not talking about the second, I'm talking about the first one right now. So, Councillor Crothers?
Maybe could you split the two out so I understand which one I'm talking to or for?
Well, we're talking about the community grant program policy and refer it to the Policy and Governance Committee to implement this program, such as you have the example of Sundry, and then we picked the principles out of it that we like to start with, and that we allocate 10%, which was Councillor Windsor identified the 14,800 and the one-time top up for this pandemic response and helping service organizations. And then following that, it would go to the 10% of our operational surplus, which benefits all of these groups and doesn't just go back into general revenue.
Can you explain to me what the operational surplus for these grants are currently held in a reserve for allocation?
We would maybe I'll let the chairperson answer that.
Okay.
Currently,
And
this past year for 2020, we had a $148,000 surplus. Of that surplus, this council allocated just about $75,000 to different things. And so there is essentially $75,000, not quite, but $75,000 that was put into the general coffers. And what we're suggesting is that rather than and that was put in there as in the general coffers to ensure that we had coverage for unexpected COVID things. At least that was the reasoning behind it. And so what we're suggesting is that when we have those surpluses, that the 10% be allocated to building our community through this community grant program. Did that explain, Councillor Crothers, what you were asking?
Yeah, sort of. The one question I have, do we have a cap on each grant? In other words, maximum can be $12,000 or maximum can be $8,000 or whatever.
Well, I believe that we put a 10% cap on the surplus. So if taking away from this year, because this is a special year and we're talking about special things in the second motion. In this year, it would be $14,800 that would be available in total. And so those organizations that made application to that would be divided up based on their evaluation by the committee that is evaluating that, and awarded so much money, each one of them, or a certain number of them, or whatever. But the total would be 10% of the previous year's surplus. So in this case, were it not for the COVID year, it would be $14,800 would be the amount that would be distributed through this program.
But we also put a cap on it, Councillor Windsor, because
Sorry, yes.
We put a cap of 30,000. We did put a cap of $30,000 on it because I know we've had an operational surplus of 600,000 as well. So we put the cap of 10% of the surplus, or 30,000 maximum, allocated to the grant program. Councillor Engel?
Have we got anything built in if we didn't have a surplus one year? Would all of these groups then not benefit? They would, like the reduction in some of the amenity costs, and that would, if I guess my fear is, like, I like the second motion a lot. I like that we will share surplus with our community groups. That's fantastic. My concern is what would happen in a year that we didn't have a surplus. Would we have any funding, or have we made a provision to fund it to a certain amount on a year that no surplus existed?
Mayor Hunter, do you want me to answer that?
Well, yes, please do.
The short answer to that, Councillor Engel, is there would be no money. If there's no surplus, there would be no money. If we were running at a budgetary deficit, then there would be no money available for this program. And unless there was money from previous years that had been put into reserves, and that money could be allocated then. But essentially, if we allocate all the money each year and we run into an operational deficit, then there would be no money for this program. And what that does is it ties it, rather than tying it to the operational budget like it is done in Sundre and in Mountain View County, it would tie it then to whatever the surplus is and whatever the success of the town is, rather than tying it to tying it to the shoulders of the taxpayer.
And you build that into the policy that there might be years you don't have that funding. And we haven't been in a year that there has been no surplus. I don't think the town has faced that, and towns can't run deficits. So, any other questions or comments? Councillor Crothers?
I guess I just have a general question. For example, the car club is sort of not doing a whole lot. Could potentially then the car club come back and apply for a grant?
Conceivably, absolutely, they could come and apply for a grant, absolutely. But as as I think that we've indicated that for at least for this year and maybe for other years, but certainly for this year, our focus is going to be on youth organizations.
Understood. Yeah.
And certainly in future years, that would be up to the committee that's going to be evaluating the applications as to whether they qualify and how much they qualify, or whether they're going to be awarded any money. I think that would be on a year-to-year basis and the merit given year to year. But again, for this year, our focus is entirely, I would suggest that our focus is entirely on youth organizations.
With your worship's permission, could I ask one more question?
Please. Yeah.
Who sets the criteria for how a group would qualify? Does the town set the criteria?
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Okay. Mayor Hunter, it would be the policy and governance committee that is developing the policy that would probably set the criteria for this. They would look at all aspects, maybe look at the Sundre, maybe look at Mountain View County, maybe look at other jurisdictions that have programs like this to develop what they believe would be the best. And obviously it is conceivable that it won't be perfect the first time. It may be that there will be some things that will have to be tweaked down the road, but at least that's where it would start. And I would expect that the Policy and Governance Committee would tackle that in preparing the policy.
Councillor Engel?
So if we vote in favor of the first recommendation, it has to then go back to Policy and Governance Committee and then come back before it's actually approved.
Yes.
So yeah, if any other questions arise or, okay. Thank you.
Yes, the draft would come back here. Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. Yes, Councillor Engel, what you're looking at here is pretty much the principle of the whole thing. In principle, do you want to do this on a perpetual basis down the road? And certainly we can make, the second motion will pinpoint it for the 2020 year, this recovery year, 21 year. It'll pinpoint it for the 21 year. But this motion is to make it a perpetual program that's tied to whatever the Policy and Governance Committee come up with for a policy that they will bring back to us for our consideration.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Councillor Moore?
Yeah, just to reiterate, I totally support doing a bigger allocation this year, which would be the bottom one. I don't know why we have to regulate future ones since we're not going to abide by it anyway this year. So I would prefer not to tie the hands of future councils. So I will be voting against the first recommendation and for the second one.
All right then, any other comments? I will call the vote then on the first motion. All in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. And I'll have the second motion.
Mayor Hunter, if it pleases you, I'll do that as well.
Yes, please.
Move that council approve the allocation from the 2020 year-end operating surplus for tax purposes of $30,000 to the community grant reserve.
Right, any questions on that? Councillor Crothers?
So the policies right now, there are none. Am I correct?
No. Those other two policies, and I think maybe there should be another policy to send those to the Policy and Governance Committee to incorporate those into to consider those for incorporation into the parameters. Otherwise, they will actually probably be rescinded going forward. But if they take all the good points out of all the policies and put them into the community grant program, and I think if I might, since we did it earlier, just with that suggestion, send it back to the Policy and Governance Committee, and they make their notes like they did for the Performance Evaluation Committee, and we wouldn't need another motion then. We're just voting on the $30,000 motion, and they'll look at all those policies combined. Does that make sense, Councillor Brothers? You guys are asking great questions, so yeah, thank you. Any other comments on the $30,000 for the Community Grant Reserve? And this needed to be done before the audit was complete so that all the 2020 money was allocated. And so that will be good timing for this should it be approved. I will call the vote then on the $30,000 to the Community Grant Reserve. All in favor? Carried. All right, thanks everyone. We now have item 7.11, town signage. That's Councillor Pogmiller.
Yes, thank you. I'm not going to be very long on this. Just that I would like to propose that seeing there's a fair bit of discontent in the community over the signage, and not just from certain people, but I've heard it from a fairly good spectrum. I would like to say that we take $10,000 of that 70, put it to the sign by the hospital to dress it up and fix it up somewhat. Take the other $60,000 and put it towards road construction, and forget the other sign for the present time until we see do a little more research and so on, see exactly where things should go and how things should roll out. And I really think that would kind of silence this whole process down. And I think it would be good that we would then invest that into repairing roads. That's my idea on this thing. Whatever you want to do, but I would propose to do that. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. Councillor Pogler, what you're asking then for is a revision of the capital budget. Is that correct?
Yes, that would be correct.
And the economic development reserves are for economic development. So that would be, Ethan, can you answer that? I mean, I'm sure this is already at committee level and it's been passed in the budget, and I haven't talked to anybody that doesn't like the idea. So there's certainly a lot of comments and conversations out there. So Ethan, I guess that is an economic development reserve account. It's not a capital budget, roads and streets, and it's not operational budget. So can you maybe respond to that? As to allocating economic development money to a road that's in reserves?
Sorry, and I may have misunderstood. I thought Councillor Pogmiller was wanting to reassign or divert money from the capital budget. Is that right? So,
well, the town signs are two signs, and they're currently being investigated for options. And that was the Strategic Planning Committee's discussion with Craig, who is doing that right now. And the second sign has come back to the Strategic Planning Committee. And the money from the town sign for the town sign project is economic development reserve money that needs to go to an economic development program. Correct?
Right. With regards to those funds that are being used currently from that economic development reserve, yes, traditionally reserves are tied to the specific department that they're held in.
Okay. So do you have a motion, Councillor Pogmiller?
Could you repeat your question, please?
Do you have a motion?
Yes, my motion would be to reconsider, take $10,000 of that 70 that we allocated for the signs and repair the sign at the hospital, and the other $60,000, if it can't go to road construction, be put back into economic development, and will be used in another regards there. However you want to word that. I mean,
Well, it's your motion, Councillor Pogman, it's your item, so.
My motion is that we're taking the sign money that we have, the $70,000, and instead of spending it on signs, that we spend $10,000 on the sign at the hospital to dress it up, and the other $60,000 we put back into the Economic Development Reserve, if that's how it has to go, because you said we can't spend it on roads. So my proposal was roads, but I will revert that and suggest that. And if council doesn't like it, that's fine. I'm just putting forward an idea.
Councillor Moore?
I hadn't really given this a whole bunch of thought before, but this is a really controversial thing, and there's all sorts of confusion and misunderstanding out there, and they don't understand that there's two signs, and they're not really understanding what the digital signs mean, and that what the advantage would be, which I see as a huge advantage, especially if we have some kind of an emergency or alert or whatever, they would be able to have that immediately. But if the community doesn't see it, why don't we just let the thing deteriorate for this year and let another council deal with it and take it at 70,000 and use it elsewhere? Like, maybe that's sort of sour grapes on my part, but I don't like all the controversy that came out of a very simple thing to improve our signs. So I wouldn't mind just using the money elsewhere.
Any other comments? Go ahead, Councillor Windsor.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why we're having this discussion again. We went through this in the strategic planning, and we went through this in the capital budget, and it was passed in both of those areas. And this is likely going to be a good thing for the town. That sign needs more than probably $10,000. We should really have Craig in here to talk about that and whether that would even be sufficient to refurbish that sign. And indications that I received would be that it wouldn't. I'm in favor of moving forward with the sign project and keeping it in the capital budget as it is.
And the town has received nothing, absolutely nothing. And I referred to that earlier. There's been no letters. I've got one phone call from a lady, and she wanted to see the proposal for the sign and how it would look. And we've also discussed in our latest, did you know that it might be repurposed over to the museum, which is a very suiting place for an antique. Our Economic Development Reserve Fund is to bring our town forward and have our brand identified and our colors identified, and everything Disbury is all branded so that we show our pride in our brand and what we offer and present to our community and to our visitors. So this motion takes away from what the Strategic Planning Committee is doing. It's like another council member going in and taking away from what the Performance Evaluation Committee has got on their table. And that's why additions to the agenda should have documents with them so we could understand what the proposal is and why they're interfering with another committee's work. And I certainly, like I said, I've got one phone call, and there has been nothing submitted to the town that I'm aware of in the form of a letter. And again, I reiterate my comments, and I'm going to ask council actually, who here on council believes that social media should guide town policy? So if anybody does, then I guess we'll have to start making motions according to what social media is saying. And that, to me, is not what a council does. We take letters, we take phone calls, we take emails, and there have been none. And like I said, the one that I got was a lady, and she wanted to wait and see until she reserved her decision until she saw what the proposals were coming forward. So I think we let the committee continue to do the work that they've been tasked to do, just like all committees continue to do their work that they're tasked to do. And I will vote against that motion too. If people want to start a letter writing campaign or a petition, I offered that the first time we talked about this. and we'll accept it if they get the petition presented. So there's a motion on the table to spend $10,000 on the sign and reverse not reverse, just to put the money back, and so that would be a capital budget reversal and a whole new motion. So I guess, Ethan, I'd ask what order you should make these motions in, because what Councillor Pogmiller is asking for is a reversal of a capital budget item that's been approved. Everyone put their hand up on our capital budget items, so it was unanimously approved.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I think I better understand the question from before. And so just to clarify, yeah, the council always has control over their budget, and so I'm assuming that what Councillor Pogmiller is proposing through his motion is to revise the capital budget previously approved to remove the item of the sign, and which again, that's probably the simplest way is that that his motion be to do that and see if he gets the votes to go along with that. I think that's probably the first thing, because that's probably the most important part, is whether or not you're going to keep the capital budget as you previously approved it.
Okay, Madam Mayor, if I may say something.
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, thanks, Ethan. Appreciate that comment. I am bringing this forward because I have had phone calls. I'm not. I've read some of the Facebook stuff, but I don't go by what Facebook has to say. But I've had numerous phone calls, and I have talked to people on the street. So I don't quite agree with what the mayor is saying, that she hasn't heard about anything, because I have. And the other thing is, this thing was supposed to come back to the Performance Evaluation Committee and was not to be dealt with only by the Strat Planning Committee. So I'm wondering if this is like, I feel like this committee has been totally circumvented on this. And there's going to be proposals put forward that we're not in agreement with. And here's the thing. I think that as a council member, I have the freedom to say what I feel. And what I represent a certain group of people. If you like it or not, that's fine. But I listen to what my constituent has to say, and they have told me that they weren't in agreement with the way this has gone down, and there was other issues to deal with this. So that's what I'm bringing forward, and I think that we need to take a breath. And I'm not against the signs at all, but I really think that we need to put our advertising signs in the right locations for the right purposes, to bring attention to our community. So that is my whole gig on this. I'm prepared to just totally withdraw this. If it's going to create a big controversy with everybody, that's fine. But I wanted to go down a record that I spoke up, and that I let it be known what my constituents have been telling me. And maybe the rest of you don't hear any of that, that's fine. But I feel an obligation to bring that forward. And that's what I'm doing. And I understand that we need something to do with the signs, and that's fine. But I also want it clear that this was supposed to come to the Performance Evaluation Committee, and then was going to go to the strategic planning after that. That was our understanding. That was told to us 3 or 4 meetings ago, and nothing has happened that way. I feel like we've been totally circumvented on that, and I'm not impressed with that. Sorry to say that. Thank you for listening.
Well, I think the motions on record would tell if you're circumvented or not. So I guess we'll have our administrative team look into those motions and bring them back when they have time again. So your motion is stand. You want your motion to stand for a vote?
Yes, I think it should.
Okay, so can you read that back to us, Luana?
Yes. Moved by Councillor Pogmiller that council amend the 2021 capital budget by using 10,000 of the signage budget from the Economic Development Reserve Fund to be put towards the repairing of the town sign located at the Didsbury Hospital, and use the remaining $60,000 of the fund into road rehabilitation, or if not possible, the remaining $60,000 could be used for economic development.
Okay, any other discussion? I'll call the vote then. All in favor? Opposed?
Oh.
Councillor Moore, I don't think you get to look at everybody's hand and then decide. So.
I'm sorry, I'm undecided. I'm a little confused by the capital budget thing. That throws a wrinkle in. So, I guess I'm going to vote in favor. I'm sorry.
All right, carried. So we have item 8.1, COVID update.
Thank you, Mayor. And this will just be short. We recently returned to step 1 by the province, which has been referred to and discussed on some of the other issues, but there's bans on indoor dining and restrictions on return to certain restrictions on other things throughout society. All the information's on the provincial website. Some have to do with stipulations given back in December, some to January. So I would encourage everyone to review the information on the provincial government of Alberta COVID website, which lays out all the restrictions with regards to places of worship, businesses, other services that are, but for the most part, we're back to step 1.
Any questions on, I guess we're all read the paper every day. Nothing really new for us, eh? Well, it's new for us, but it's old but new again. I think there's a song about that. So if there's no questions, I'll have a motion to accept this as information. Councillor Crothers.
I move we accept this as information.
All right, I'll call the vote then. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we have the Chief Administrative Officer's report, item 8.2. Any, I guess, questions first, and then we'd accept it as information. Councillor Moore?
Certainly, I would move to accept it as information, but I do want to point out, because I think that it's important to note that we waived $44,325 in business licenses. I think that is quite a contribution toward our businesses in particular. And I do want that noted, because I hear lots of other requests for help for them, and that should be recognized. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Moore. Any other comments? Oh, did you have something to say, Ethan? And then
just and this will be after everyone's comments, but there are a couple of portions that will be oral reports. And I meant to mention that earlier, Mayor.
Okay. All right. So I see Craig's here, and I think he's going to be doing the library update, or monthly library update. Thanks, Craig, for coming. Your mic is off or on, so is that good, Ethan? You want him to go ahead?
Yeah, well, just before we get to Craig, I'll just do a quick, also, I've included in my CA report just some basic principles of closed meetings. We've had some questions recently about that. I've highlighted some principles there. I do want to just because we do get questions from the public about that. There are a realm of areas that the Act, the Privacy Act, kind of set aside as needing to be held in closed session. And some examples of that are listed there. We can do better, though. There are some requirements as to how we kind of list those items and prepare for those items on our agendas. And similar to how we do on our council meeting agendas, we can do better, though. We're going to work at tightening up some of those processes on our committee agendas and make sure our committee agendas are properly reflective of those proper processes and processes that we follow for closed. We do realize that some of our committee agendas could be a little bit better, similar to how we do our council meetings, to help ensure that we're properly communicating the things that we're supposed to communicate on that note. So I did want to just highlight that we'll do that and improve that. And then with regards to the library project, I'll turn the time over to Craig, who will do a project update there.
Thanks, Ethan.
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you guys tonight. So with the library, we're still sort of in that process of gathering the information that's necessary to produce the estimates that we're working very hard towards. So I think since the last update, we've opened up the walls in the Old Town office, had a peek between the two structures, so we know what we're sort of dealing with in that respect. We've taken a look at some of the beams and the columns that are inside the building to make sure that they're structurally capacity is what we're sort of trying to identify and make sure is there for the existing structure, and then how we'd sort of adjust the challenges that we're faced with trying to address the roof and such. So mechanical estimates are forthcoming, and we're still sort of working with the fire codes inspector on the fire separation for the east wall. So sort of just coming up to the final end of things and collecting some numbers, and then we'll sit down and come up with an estimate and meet with the committee. So sort of still ongoing, I guess, would be the way to express it.
Thanks, Craig. Any questions on that? $2021 capital budget item yet, or what are the timelines? We just freed up $60,000.
Can I hire somebody?
Oh, well, if we see something in front of us that would ask us that, we'd have to answer.
I probably said too much.
I'll tell you, the way, if Monique had her way, she'd have them hired already. So she was in on the conversation today with the engagement for the recreation master plan for the region, and you couldn't find a better advocate, I'll tell you, than Monique, because she's relentless and so positive. So any other questions on the CAO's report or about the library? Maybe you said this, Ethan, but the Canadian summer jobs, seasonal summer staff, does that mean where are they going? For the Canada Works or Canada summer jobs? Maybe it's there.
Is that with regards to the funding we got approved for?
Yeah, we got $8,400 for some people.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And where are they going to work? So seasonal, I would think outside. But
yeah, I'll turn it over to Amanda, who could speak to that in more detail.
Okay.
Yeah, that's funding for people who worked in 2020. So there was one arena position and one parks, I think was the childcare.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just always read 2021. It's just a habit. And I do want to note, though, that RCMP community report has substantially relieved your work for you, Amanda, because they are giving you all the numbers right there. And it's an excellent report. I'm just so impressed. And that's another reason why RCMP should be Alberta's police force of choice, because they are actually, all their objectives are being met as they go forward with their new deputy commissioner. So that's pretty cool. Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. In Ethan's report on the tax or property tax recovery sales, he indicates that all of the properties that were in arrears and up for auction or potentially up for auction in 2021 are no longer up for auction. Does that mean that they have brought their taxes into I guess the black?
I will turn this to Amanda to speak to that.
Yeah, essentially they had to pay their, they didn't have to pay the current year, but they had to pay the all those taxes to come into kind of the appropriate status, so their property wasn't up for auction anymore. So they could still owe money. So I'm not going to say they are in the black. Some of them might have paid it all, but some of them might have paid just the year that made them go onto the auction notification.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right. Any other questions? So I will ask for the motion to accept this information. Councillor Moore?
I made that.
I'm sorry.
I made that motion.
These get long. All right, I'll call the vote then. All in favor? And thanks to everybody for their excellent work again in the CO report. So we'll go to the council reports. And we'll start with Councillor Ingle.
We're starting with the easy one tonight.
Yeah.
I haven't had any meetings since my last report. So last meeting I gave a report on my meetings. I'll have meetings coming up next week, both museum and library, and I believe a performance evaluation. I think we'll have one. So I would be reporting on those at our next council meeting. I would like to say that both our museum and library are presently closed.
Well, you wouldn't like to say that, but.
No, I don't mean I like to say that. I would like to say, not that I like it. I don't like it.
Councillor Crothers. I shouldn't have got you when you were distracted. My apologies.
No, what I was just doing was checking my notes to make sure I don't miss anything. We had our policy and governance meetings. We've had one MPC municipal planning meeting with our introducing our new member, Craig Martin, who's joining us. Tomorrow there is a very important municipal planning meeting that Christopher sent the minutes or the agenda out to all the members. It's a big agenda, and there's a couple of very, very important items on it. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll mark a bit of a start for the town. We have some progressive things that are happening, so we're looking forward to that meeting tomorrow. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Crothers. On my screen, I'll just keep going to the right. Councillor Windsor.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I attended the Mountain View Recreation, Culture and Parks Master Plan session today, and that was a really interesting session. Midweek, I was involved in the Bring Winona Home campaign and got a bunch of pictures of what was going on down there downtown. The Alberta Library Trustees Association is undergoing a forensic evaluation, which I'm involved in. Red Deer River Municipal Users Group has now got their water resource handbook online, so you can look at it on their website if you're interested. Parkland, you probably saw the letter from Parkland in our correspondence, which is outlining some things that we are going to have to check on somewhere down the road. The Waste Commission meeting was postponed from yesterday to Friday as there was problems getting together the audit, and so we'll be looking at the audit, the financial audit, on Friday. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Councillor Moore?
Yes, other than the committees of council, which of course strategic planning and policy and governance, which of course we had and have been quite busy. Mountain View Seniors Housing, there's quite a lot of news there. We had the transition of the healthcare to Bethany Care Society happen on April 1st. And with a whole lot of planning and preparation and really good relationships with the Bethany group, they have transitioned to take on all of the healthcare within our Mountain View housing. And that is going to result in our having a lower requisition from Mountain View Seniors Housing in subsequent years. It's a small reduction this year, but it will be more in future years. Our budget, our financial statements are pretty much done. We've looked at them, and actually the government assistance really helped us. We weren't hurt that badly. In fact, we came out in a positive way at the end of the year, and still no COVID-19 in any of our, at this point in any of our facilities, for which we're very grateful, and everybody has their shots. So that's it for now. Oh,
all right,
sorry, one more thing. Strategic planning. We will do our strategic planning for the future and review the transition on April 22nd. Sorry.
All right, thank you. Councillor Baswick.
Good evening. This will be short because, as you know, Water Commission meets tomorrow morning. I will be forwarding their itinerary and the previous minutes to Luana as soon as I get them tomorrow. And that's basically it. However, when we were talking about water rates, we're going to have to be concerned, if not this year, for sure next year, the rates will possibly be going up. So that's something we'll have to consider, and I'll mention that, of course, first off to Amanda so she can work with her budget. But as soon as I have those numbers, I'll let everybody know. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pogmiller.
Thank you. My report will be short and sweet. I didn't have any meetings since our last council meeting. I got a few coming up this week and next week, but for the past, I don't have anything to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Engel.
Well,
oh, yeah, I'm sorry, you already went. I'm not going around again.
I'm gonna change up my report now on you.
I'm not going around again, I'm sorry. And I have nothing to report, so in sake of time, we'll move on to item 9. I'll have a motion, though, to accept the council reports as information. Councillor Engel.
I move that council accept council reports as information.
Okay, call the vote. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we have correspondence and information, 3 items. Motion to accept this information. Councillor Crothers? Oh, you just wanted to make the motion without saying it? Or are you trying to turn your mic on? Okay, Councillor Crothers made that motion. I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Thank you.
Carried. Okay, we have council meeting highlights, and I'll go the same way this time. Councillor Engel.
I think tonight the Good Samaritan recognition was a pretty neat one for Doug, Tan, and Shirley. I'm always excited when we get to point out a few of our citizens, and it just helps us understand why our town is so good. People like the three that we talked about tonight.
Thank you. I agree. Councillor Crothers.
Oh, it is on. Actually, the one thing I did enjoy tonight was Shirley's nomination. I was assigned on a project with her. We were doing a study that was part of the Municipal Planning Commission. We were doing a study on cemeteries, and we ended up going to 3 different community cemeteries. And I ended up with Shirley. We were down in Cardston, and we did an evaluation of pluses and minuses on their community cemetery, as we were looking at what we could do with ours here. And she was just an amazing woman with ideas and really creative ideas as to how to spruce a cemetery up and get signage and the whole bit. I was really impressed with her. She's really amazing.
Thank you, Councillor Crothers. Nicely. Councillor Windsor. I'm sorry I should be calling you Deputy Mayor Windsor all night. It's just easier to say Councillor.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Mayor Hunter. Probably my highlight was, well, I had several of them, but I'll pinpoint one, and that is the multi-purpose room lobby roof project award for $33,000 less than our budgeted amount. And so that's a tribute to our community services manager and administration, generally speaking. So I'm very pleased with that.
Great. Councillor Moore.
Yes, I guess mine would be that we have our operating budget heading to the website and community input, and that we have the draft budget pretty much done and ready to go.
Thank you. Councillor Bajic.
Oh, I think mine is the commitment by administration to cut red tape and expedite the outdoor facilities for our hurting restaurants. To me, that was very, very important and very special to me. So kudos to them, and I hope that they follow through as they say they will. Thank you.
Well, I trust that they will. So thank you, Councillor Baswick. Councillor Pogmiller.
Yes, I would like to reiterate what Councillor Baswick had to say. I am pleased that we're making some really good strides towards helping our community in a real way, and I look forward to the restaurants and so on kind of being able to pick up their feet and move forward, even though it is a difficult time. And I hope that we can support them in the best way we can, both personally and through our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I agree. The outdoor coffee and dining opportunities, I'm sticking with that too, since everybody, it's allowed now apparently to overlap besties, so I'm good with that. I think I love Brooke's attitude when she went on there and just got positive about it, though it must have been very devastating news, but turned a positive twist on it, and very rarely happens on social media, so I can't commend her enough to all the attitude she took on that, and for Jada reaching out. So I do hope to see it go through the summer if it's could be successful. And with that, that's the council roundtable. Do we have any questions? Luana, I guess, would have those.
No, I don't have any further questions.
And there's no questions from the press gallery either.
Okay. Thank you. So I will then have a motion to go to closed meeting in accordance with Division 2 of the FOIP Act, Sections 23 and 24.
Could I ask, do we need a motion to accept the correspondence and information? As in,
We didn't have that. I'm sorry if I didn't make that motion or have that motion made. Please
well,
do.
I'll make it.
Thank you, Council Moore. I will call the
You're
vote on
welcome.
that. All in favor? I don't have an initial wrote down by there, so thank you. Carried. So close meeting at 9:43. Councillor Windsor.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'll make that motion.
All right, all in favor? Carried. And it is 9:43, so if you need a 2-minute break, anyone? That would be important just to keep it to 2 minutes. And I must say that we will need to reconvene tomorrow night because I'm not going to rush